All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is November 11th, Veterans Day. We got 5 games on today's NBA slate. Before we dive into those games, I do want to say thank you to all of the veterans out there. I truly do appreciate your service. I know that is something that you'll probably hear a lot today, but it doesn't mean the next one that you hear isn't as genuine as the first one. So I do appreciate all of the veterans out there. Obviously, we wouldn't be in this situation had it not been for you guys. But in today's video, guys, we're going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'm going to give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, all of my final plays, so that I'm actually rolling with myself, will be listed on the Guy Boston Sports site. I'll put that down in the pinned comment as well, so it is easy to find, completely free, what we're rolling with ourselves. In terms of how we did last night, I don't know if I'm ready for this one, boys. We had 3 plays, and not a single one of them cashes. Minnesota Timberwolves team total over. They didn't even get into triple digits. And then we had Klay Thompson points and Klay Thompson threes. Yeah. We'll take one more womp there, a dustpan reverse sweep type of a day. We haven't had one of those in a long time, but here it is, and here we are to own it because yesterday wasn't all that great. We did okay in the NFL, so I'm not feeling it monetarily and whatnot, but does stink to go over 3 in the NBA there. In terms of some good news, though, we flash it over to the ride of the day. Let me get the vibes going back up here again. We have Henry with Domantas Sabonis. Domas over 29.5 points plus rebounds. I think he finished with 32 PR, so shout out to him. He cashes. Henry cashes the ride of the day, and we continue to ride with these plays. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, it is very simple. Just use that hashtag ride of the day in the comments or ROTD. Give me your favorite play, and I jump on board with one person's play each and every day, and then give you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. If you win, we continue to roll with you and let you go on a little bit of a streak here, like Henry has done. I posted on the site as well as on my X over here at FGuyBoston if you do want to check out today's ride of the day. But get those plays down in the comments. And what do you say we dive into game number 1 here? Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's rock. We got Chicago taking on Cleveland here. Chicago getting 7.5 at home. In terms of where they're coming out of, they just pulled themselves out of a long losing streak. I think they lost like 4 or 5 games in a row against some decent teams, but they played Atlanta most recently a couple days ago and won 125-113, and they came back and won that one. Cleveland yet to lose on the season, 11-0. They're 9-2 against the spread. This team has been cruising in. They've stayed healthy. It's like that's been one of my biggest calls so far this year, is that if this Cleveland team is healthy, they're probably the second best team in the East, and they've been showing that. So I do think this is a tough spot for Chicago, even though they're at home. I don't know if 7.5 points is enough to give there. You have both of these teams who do like to get to the hoop and score at the rim. Cleveland's been good at preventing it so far. Chicago, points in the paint allowed through their games, literally dead last in the NBA. So you have both teams that shoot a lot down there. One's going to have a better time scoring. I think I lean towards Cleveland in this spot. That 7.5 is a lot. And like I keep saying, as good as the Cavs are, at some point they will have kind of a head-scratching loss because that's just what happens in the NBA. Could it be tonight? Sure, but I'm not willing to risk it in terms of putting your own bread on it. You know what I mean? So give me the Cleveland Cavs here minus the points. I don't mind the idea of an under. That total is so high, and I know the Bulls like to run and everything like that, but this is a really efficient Cavs offense. The Bulls, you look at their points per game, and it's like, okay, 12th in the league and whatnot, but you go down to offensive efficiency, and they're in the bottom third, so I don't think that they're going to have the easiest time here in terms of just running up the points. Now, is the pace of the game going to be high? Yes, like I mentioned, Bulls like to play fast, and Cleveland will say, hey, we'll call your fast and raise you another fast. You know what I mean? Like, they can play fast as well. I don't think they'll need to today, so I am going to lean towards the under based on the Cavs' defensive ability, and I feel like the Bulls, the way they like to score, they could struggle today, but overall, I'm just thinking that line is too high anyways. Like, I don't think this is a 99 to 90 type game. No, it's probably going to be decently scoring because of the pace, but 236.5 just seems a little bit too high. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the outlier screen. I have a few player props to look at in this one. I'll put a link to outlier in the pinned comment as well as on the Guy Boston Sports site if you guys want to check it out. You get a 7-day trial. It's one of my favorite. No, it actually honestly is my favorite player prop research tool. I was going to throw throw it in with a few others, but this one is bar none ahead of the rest. And after that, it's only $19.99 per month after. So it's a great tool, guys. Check out that trial link that I post with the plays as well as the pinned comment. But we got Evan Mobley here, over 16.5 points. This year, he's done in 6 of 11. Okay, we look at him on the road. He's done in 2 of 5. Not all that great, but I already mentioned that Chicago is going to struggle at stopping them down below, right? And that's where Evan Mobley likes to shoot. You can even see Chicago, 2 power forwards this year, allowing the 3rd most points allowed to that position, 29.7. If he gets his field goal attempts up in this range, I love this spot for him because I think a lot of his field goal attempts today will fall. The issue that I have with him is he going to have one of these high foul games. Like there's no shock that he fouls out of this game and he hits the under, right? Or, 2 of these games he has 13 in one of them. 4 he has 14. Like foul trouble has been Evan Mobley's issue, so hopefully he stays out of that. But overall, I do like his 16.5 points. With the same mindset in terms of how I think the Cavs can score, I don't mind Jared Allen either. The problem with him is his inconsistency with the field goal, like 3 shots in this game, 7-6. Like we want him in those double digits if we like this 14.5. So I do like Jared Allen as well, but the field goal as of late, those attempts have been a little rickety. Now, I mentioned how the Cavs are good at stopping other teams in the paint, correct? Nikola Vucevic for over 1.5 3-pointers made at plus 165 may be something that I look at today. He's hitting 7 of his 10 games. He's taking enough shots for me to actually be, feel good about it. In some of these 9, 8, 5, 5, he's going to get open looks. Jared Allen is not going to run around the perimeter with him. So if this was like a minus 110 play, no, I would not be looking at it. But for plus 165, I could see Big Vooch hanging out by the arc a little bit more than he normally would. So a decent amount of player props in that game there. Let's go ahead and move on. All right, next up, we have the Pels taking on the Nets here. Brooklyn 4-6 on the year, but they are 8-2 against the spread. So I think they are one of the best against the spread teams right now. New Orleans, not so much. They're 3-7 on the year, 2-8 against the spread. So not looking all that great. Coming off of 4 straight losses. They did play Cleveland in there, but the other ones were Atlanta, Portland, and then a banged up Orlando, right? So it's like, okay, I don't necessarily sit here and have all this pity for you. Like your team has not been in the greatest of spots. Now, Brooklyn also has lost 3 of their last 4 games. 2 of those losses were Cleveland and Boston, so obviously I feel like that is worth noting in this spot. This Brooklyn team's, and they took Boston to overtime, right? So this is obviously a decent Brooklyn team. I'm going to lean towards them because it's just the pick'em spread. If this was any more like 4, 4.5, 5, anything like that, I would start to kind of question, like, is it too much? But based on the situation of the Pelicans, which, if you don't know, they're literally entire starting lineup other than Ingram and their 6th man. Like, everybody is injured. Listen to this. You have Williamson out, he's now out with a hamstring for a while, right? DeJounte Murray, who's been out since the beginning of the year. He played a little bit, and then boom. Then you have Herb Jones out. CJ McCollum's out. Jordan Hawkins out. Trey Murphy now listed as probable. Okay, they might be getting him back, but that's not going to change things overall. You know what I mean? Like, they're still going to be in the dumps. So because this is just 1 point, I really can't help but look at Brooklyn in this spot. Do I like them as favorites? Probably not. I like Brooklyn to cover these games when they're getting, 13.5 against the Celtics, 12.5 against the Cavs. Like, they lose both those games, but they lose close ones. So do I love them as a favorite? No, but I really just cannot get to a Pelicans side here. In terms of what I see from a total, like, this is just a little bit too low. You have Brooklyn who plays slow, I get it. The Pelicans who play slow, I get it. But to me, 211.5 just seems a little bit low for 2 teams that I wouldn't necessarily sit here and say are amazing on the defensive end. Brooklyn looks pretty good from a points per game allowed perspective, but like I just said, they're really the 2nd slowest team in the league this year. A defensive efficiency perspective, they're 17th in the league. So it's not like they're all that special. And then you have the Pelicans who are terrible defensively. So I think that we could see some easy buckets on both end at times for these 2 teams. So I'll go ahead and lean towards the over as well. And then from a player prop perspective, these are listed, I would say, in order of what I like the most. But looking at Cam Johnson here, over 15.5 points. You can also get 14.5 if you like that juice a little bit more. He's done it in 4 straight games. What I like about him is if he's getting these consistent minutes, I like it. He's averaging 34 minutes played this year. He's going to get a couple 3-point looks as well, but his line's just a little bit too high for me. But this is a good opportunity for him. He leads the team in corner 3 attempts per game. The Pelicans, not exactly all that great at stopping that. So that's one reason I like him, but I probably just end up looking at his 14.5 points versus the threes. Cam Thomas, I would look at as threes, even though he's not really been hitting it. I just mentioned the issues, I guess you could say, with the Pelicans, and for plus 135 for him to have the volume, we know he'll have the volume, right? 9, 7 attempts. Just because he's not hitting them doesn't mean that he's not shooting them. So I don't mind him to hit a few threes here in this spot. I also don't mind his points, but he's been a little off lately. In fact, he's been passing the ball a lot more, so there's one thing. And then, so I like his points and threes. And then one last one in this game is Dennis Schroeder here, over 23.5 points plus assists. You can see how the Pelicans rank against point guards here. 24th rank in terms of points allowed, and then 29th, so the second most in terms of allowing assists. And we've seen Dennis Schroeder have some nice assist games, right? In terms of what we're looking at from his potential assists, actually, we don't have it right now, but overall, he's been averaging tons of potential assists per game, too. So I like him over 23.5 points plus assists as well. And real quick, guys, before we do move on to the last 3 games of today's slate, I wanted to talk to you about Underdog. They have a Matt Stafford 0.5 total yards here. Underdog, you pick higher or lower based on player set projections. The more you get correct, the more you get paid out. And right now, if you sign up with the link in the pinned comment or on the Guy Boston Sports site, I'll put it there as well for your convenience. You're going to get this Matt Stafford square, 0.5 total yards. He can run or pass. With Matt Stafford, I think we know which one he's doing, but he can run or pass, just needs 1 yard, as well as up to $1,000 in a sign-up bonus. So go ahead and check out Underdog. Again, that link is going to be below, but it'll also be on the Final Plays site. So check that out in the pinned comment as well. But go check out Underdog, guys. Really, 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 really fun app and makes the game that much more entertaining. Go ahead and check it out. Moving on, we got OKC taking on the Clippers. OKC, obviously, one of, and then in a lot of people's minds, the best team in the league so far this year. They're 8-2, 7-3 against the spread, 4-1 at home. This Clippers team, though, I feel like is quietly doing their job. 6-4 both against the spread and straight up. They've won 4 straight games. Now, have they had the hardest of schedules? I wouldn't say so. Those 4 straight wins have been San Antonio, Philadelphia, Sacramento, and Toronto. So I don't think that they've been battle tested all that much. Now, before that 4-game win streak, they did play the Thunder here, and the Thunder won that one 105-92 in a low-scoring game. Now, one thing to note here is that spread is for that game was 5.5, right? It's 6.5 today, and I don't believe Chet Holmgren is playing. So now that starting lineup is without Holmgren. Williams isn't playing. Hartenstein still not playing. So I do think that is a kick in the you-know-what for OKC. Holmgren not playing. I don't mind a spot here for the Clippers. You have the Thunder on a back-to-back, no Holmgren, that type of thing. The Thunder catching the what was it, 126 to 117? I might have something mixed up there, but losing to Golden State yesterday. Clippers rested after, playing in LA 2 nights ago. So 6.5 might be the spot to look in this one. Do I think, rolling against OKC is going to be the move often? No. But again, missing one of your best players and laying that big number seems like it's a little bit too much. Now, in terms of where I'd go from a total perspective, I do think if the Clippers start to kind of control the pace of this game, it will slow down at first, but then the Thunder want to adjust to that and start to play a little bit faster, in which I do think the Clippers can keep up with. So I'm going to lean towards the over in this one. I know I loved the under last time they played, and it's like, well, what's changed? Nothing really, but now the Thunder, are at home here in this spot, and they are one of the faster paced teams just because they, their points per game is number 1 in the league in terms of, points per game allowed and defensive efficiency. That's just because they're so good defensively, but they're still moving games pretty quickly, playing at the 5th highest pace. So I think that 219 and a half, whatever you get it at, is still a little bit too low. But again, I'd think long and hard about rolling with a Thunder play today, just given their situation overall. And in terms of player props, it's a tough one to say out loud, but I don't mind looking at some Shea unders. Yesterday, I was so dang close to pulling the trigger on his threes. Glad I didn't, because he only shot, he's like, did he even shoot? Yeah, he was 0 of 1 or 2, right? So, yeah, I'm glad I didn't roll with that. And I don't think that I'll do it again. But I would normally look at some Shea unders. But obviously, with all those guys being injured, who's going to do anything, right? It's probably going to be him. So I like the Clippers matchup to kind of, hurt him and not hurt him, but, hurt his stats and whatnot, not have him go off. But with Holmgren out, with Williams out, like a lot of these guys out, I think he's going to have the ball a lot, so he might have even more quantity than he normally would. So that's where I would look for player props. But obviously, based on the player props, what I've given now 7 in today's show, that probably falls to the bottom of the list, I guess. All right, Houston's taking on Washington. Kind of a weird one for me here just because that number is so freaking big. You have Washington coming off of a loss yesterday in which they didn't cover a number similar to this size against Orlando. Houston coming off of a win where they didn't cover, but they did pull out the victory against Detroit, 101-99. That number is just, it's got to be just too big, right? Like, I don't feel comfortable with Houston laying that many points, so I'll sound the psycho alert alarm, which we got a comment recently. Can you explain the sounds from the soundboard? They're what they sound like. No pun intended there, but it's like the psycho alert alarm. I drop that when I think that the play, I can understand commenters being like, that's a crazy play. It's like, yeah, Washington plus anything is definitely crazy. But that is what we got here today. I just can't really justify those points with Houston in terms of, laying that on the second night of a back-to-back. Now, I will say Houston, they've either had one or two back-to-back so far. They covered in both of them, I believe. So, all right, there's something to be said, but still. 13.5 seems like it's a little bit too much here. I could see them winning by 10. Sure, I'm not sitting here saying Washington sneaks this one out. They might, but I don't think that that's I'm not trying to justify money line or anything like that. In terms of the total, if Washington is keeping this game close, I think that they end up pushing the pace and getting things going. And we even see, Orlando yesterday score 121 against them. We saw Memphis score 128, Golden State score 125, Miami 118, Atlanta 120, Atlanta 119, Cavs 135, Celtics 122, Celtics 132. Teams are scoring on this Washington team, so I do think that we could see some of that today as well for Houston. So I'd probably look at the over. Or, in fact, now I didn't have this actually prepared, but now I'm thinking about it, maybe a Houston team total over. That way we can say, okay, yes, Houston's a better team. They probably win, but we don't have to worry about 13.5 points on that side, right? So maybe Houston team total over could be a good look as well. In fact, let's jump into Outlier. We could find that very quickly. I'm now on the game screen versus the player prop screen, but if we go into this game, where are you hiding? All right, match details. We could see all of the team props here. So team props, go to Houston points. You're looking at a ton of juice, a big number here. I'm not sure if I like that because Houston still is a, slow-ish team. So maybe we consider that, but keep an eye on the final plays for this one, guys. I don't know if we'll have any plays in this game, but like I always say, keep an eye on the final plays. All right, guys, if you made it this far into the video to the last game, go ahead and comment 16. I appreciate everyone that is still rocking with us during this channel drama and old channel and whatnot. Like, I'm going to keep you guys posted when we have information, but I do appreciate all the support on the new channel here. And if you're not aware, this is a new channel we started less than a week ago, and it's already where it's at. So I cannot be more thankful for that. Super, super grateful, guys. Don't take any of this for granted. So if you made it this far, let me know that you heard this rant and whatnot by commenting 16, hitting that like button and subscribe button. But let's jump into this last game. We got San Antonio taking on Sacramento. San Antonio, 1.5 point dogs here at home. The Sacramento team has been so up and down for me. They do beat the Suns last night. Now, that was a beaten and bruised Suns team. It was not there. I think they were down, 2 starters, right? But overall, I still don't necessarily know where I come out with Sacramento. San Antonio coming into this one after a loss against Utah. Where these teams like to shoot from. Sacramento likes to shoot from the mid-range and getting closer to the paint. San Antonio's been kind of a mixed bag. Restricted areas where they started shooting from. Now they've pulled out to the above the break 3. But either way, what I would say is I think Sacramento's defense is dynamic and I guess good enough to be able to stop them. And the fact that we're almost taking advantage of that back-to-back, right? Like the fact that we're looking at -1.5, I think this one should be more or less closer to like 3.5, 4. So I'll take a peek here at Sacramento, hoping their guys play. Obviously, Fox, Sabonis, they have a star-studded lineup, but on a back-to-back, that's obviously something to always consider. And when we look at what these guys played last night, Sabonis for 39 minutes, DeRozan played 43, Keegan Murray played 43, Fox played 41, Herter played 35. Like, that's a little worrisome, right? Keon Ellis even played 28 minutes off the bench, so they clearly have a lot of minutes on their speedometer, whatever the hell the name is, the tripometer, after last night. So wondering if they do get full run. If they do, I do like Sacramento. In terms of what we have for a total here, it's at 221. I think that this one could be fast-paced, honestly. The Spurs, yes, 22nd in terms of pace, but Sacramento is looking at being the 11th fastest-paced team so far this year. And with no rest situations, these teams have been able to, like Sacramento, have been able to cash overs earlier on in the year. So I don't mind a little bit of, I guess, some up-tempo in this spot. Last back-to-back for Sacramento, we saw them play November 1st against Atlanta. Then they played Toronto the next day, and that game was a 131-128 game. And then we saw them play against Utah after Portland. They scored 113. Portland only scored Utah only scored like 98. So yeah, the second example is probably the one that I would like. What I will say is that San Antonio also, with rest advantage, has covered quite a few overs. So I don't mind the spot here for an over, but I think Sacramento might be the move. I'm just shaking in my boots a little bit here when it comes to the obvious of, are they on a back-to-back? Is that going to affect them all that much? I also will note that San Antonio's been, a decent team, and I shouldn't say decent, like really good at preventing teams from scoring in the paint. Well, Sacramento ranks the second fewest in terms of restricted area shots. They do like to score from in the paint, but not at the rim. So I guess that kind of helps Sacramento as well. They can stay away from the superhuman down there in Wemby. And no major player props as of right now, but keep an eye on the final play. Is always willing to add and continue researching throughout the day. But guys, that is going to wrap it up for today's show. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Like I said, dustpan yesterday, 0-3, terrible womp moment. But we're rolling. We're rolling here. We're having a good NFL season, decent NBA season, crush the MLB. Like, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I hope you guys at least just appreciate the content at the end of the day as well. You guys do what you want with your plays and all that based on what you hear from me. Sure, I'm not trying to hold anyone to any sort of point saying, hey, you got to go do this. So as long as I can keep cranking out some good content, entertaining content, I know that the plays and whatnot will come along with it. So that's all I got for you guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. All right, peace out.